It's time for Rockin Company's Rockin CU, featuring Adam Munsterteiger, buffstampede.com, or follow him at AdamCM7777. Rockin Company, making Colorado beautiful with natural stone construction for 5 decades. RockinCo.com. And Zadie's Delis, where they're dunking it and hitting home runs with those great sandwiches stuffed with homemade corned beef and the other deli treats. Free parking front and back in Cherry Creek, 121 Adams Street. And they cater Zadie's Deli. And good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
We've got a lot of movement going on at the University of Colorado. Let's start on the football side and bid a farewell to one of the guys that absolutely, I think, all Buff fans love seeing play. He came in here with a head of steam and a head of curls and was just a whirlwind as an All-American, as a freshman All-American, as a linebacker, Addison Gillam. And now, unfortunately, due to injuries, he is going to call it a career.
Yeah, it was a tough deal for him after that first year, and he just came shooting right out the gate against CSU, and everyone's looking at each other going, where did this kid come from? He came from a really small town in Northern California, and it looked like he was going to be an All-American at some point, not just a freshman All-American, but an All-American at some point. And then that sophomore season just started kind of a downslide in terms of injuries and illness, and he tried to battle through it and actually did play in all 13 games last season as a backup. And you saw flashes of it last year in that Arizona State game. He made some great plays. So you saw brief snippets of the old Addison Gillam, but it was becoming a lot of work for him to get ready for game days. And he decided to take a sabbatical this spring. He had already graduated. The 4 guys he was closest to on the team were leaving and moving on as well. This would have been the 3rd defensive staff to get used to for him. And then he just decided that it was time to move on. And it's official now. He created a GoFundMe account. He's hiking the Appalachian Trail right now. And so he's taking money from people, which is you can't be eligible to play college football. So it's definitely official that his career is done. Even despite all those injuries and everything, he still finished 24th in school history in tackles, and he's in the top 25 in school history in tackles for a loss and third down stops. So he still made his mark. He is one of those guys, though, you will think back and go, what could have been if he hadn't suffered all those injuries?
I think you made a really good point, and one that needs to be emphasized, because when we're fans or journalists or whatever, however we watch college football, and we look at Addison Gillam, and you said, his 4 best buddies on the team have moved on as well. You know what? I think if his 4 best buddies were there, they would have talked him in as, hey, come on, man, we'll get you through it. But it is, you are young and you are in college, and it's more than, will they go to the Rose Bowl this year? It's the relationships you build in college, and he knew his time was done, and his friends were moving on. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, he actually did take a sabbatical earlier, to your point, earlier in his college career when he was having all those injuries and stuff. And it was those buddies that brought him back into the team. He wanted to be a part of that, and so that's exactly it. And if you ask Mike McIntyre about Addison Gillam, he has a hard time not tearing up because he knows how much he's tried to battle through and persevered, and he's won an award at CU for that. So I think you got to tip your hat to him. And I know a lot of CU fans are funding him on this trail. So he's certainly gonna move on, and he wants to be a firefighter with his life. So he's definitely going into a noble profession after he goes on this hike. And it sounds like he's already at the 200-mile mark, so he's well into that.
Great that he is able to physically hike the trail. That football injuries and being a firefighter, that he has a physical future left, and so many who play football, especially at a high level like college football, don't have that. That's the really good news. He has the rest of his life to use that body. He's emblematic of the kind of recruiting that put Coach McIntyre into a position to be competitive, finding gems in unusual places. He's that no-name guy who overachieved, who kind of characterized the early years of the McIntyre regime before they started getting the 4 stars and the 3 stars in. Let's change and talk to another kind of movement other than Appalachian Trail movement. 3 key guards are off of the Colorado basketball team. Derek White is finished with his college career. used up all his eligibility, and he will be sorely missed as a star of last year's team. But Thomas Akizili never took the next step, and now he's leaving to play pro in Belgium. And Bryce Peters, who had a bright future athletically at Colorado, who flashed the ability to become a star, to maybe become a Derek White type of impact player, he's leaving because he's worn out his welcome with off-the-court activities.
Yeah, Tad Boyle has realized these last 3 years that, as he says, you got to take the bull by the horns, and you can't let the players run the program unless they prove that they deserve that responsibility. And Bryce Peters certainly didn't. He had issues with the authority there and had some academic issues, some other issues. It was a third strike where Tad Boyle finally came down and said, you're suspended for the rest of the year. And as all coaches, I believe, do this, I know Tad Boyle sits down with each player and tells them exactly where he sees them going forward. And he's brutally honest, not trying to run kids off, but Bryce Peters certainly was not going to buy in 100%, and sometimes you got to cut your losses there. From a basketball sense, it hurts because he should be their starting point guard from a talent standpoint going forward. He certainly showed flashes of that when he was, right before that suspension, was really playing at a high level in the Pac-12. Missed a total of 10 games for those disciplinary reasons. So it was probably time to move on. Had he bought in, though, he would have been a really good player for CU going forward.
So right now, if we look at the roster, it looks to me like the starting point guard next year moves back over from some shooting guard duty. Is Dominique Collier. You and I have disagreed about Dominique over the years mildly. Dominique has not been the player people expected, top 100 recruit out of East High School in Denver. But I thought at the end of last year, we started to see some things from Dominique that we had not seen earlier. Seeing him go to the basket, seeing him finish stronger, although he is still slight of build and does not finish well with contact. Ironically, his outside shot, which had improved dramatically since he arrived there, was a little more erratic there. But I saw the makings of a point guard that we expected at the end of last year, albeit not consistently, but with the chance to take the team over and have it be his. And when he was the point guard, they did win and make the NCAA tournament a year ago. Can he be the point guard, and can they be successful?
Yeah, well, you talk about them going to the NCAA tournament when he was the starting point guard, but he was the biggest issue on that team. And when teams would go on a run, he just did not have that calming influence in that point guard role. You talk about a guy with the ball in his hands in crunch time. Who do you want the ball in his hands? Not Dominique Collier. And I think he can be a good college player. I think at times when Derek White was taking over, if he can kind of take that secondary role and be a combo guard, he can have success. But, I mean, he still only shot 33% from the field last year, had 40 assists in 463 minutes. I know that he had moved away from a primary point guard role, but still he's shown flashes. But if you look at Colorado's recruiting now that they have 2 open scholarships, they're going after guards. They're looking at a Rutgers guard, Nigel Johnson, that announced that he's going to transfer. He's going to be a graduate transfer. They've offered a couple junior college point guards that are known for being scorers. So they're looking for somebody to come in and contribute immediately and possibly be that starting point guard as a transfer. And that would allow you to keep Dominique Collier in that secondary role, which I think would best suit him.
And that means he may not be starting as well because George King may fill that 2-guard role instead of the small forward role, despite the attrition in the rest of the roster. Very good. We will catch up on Colorado's basketball recruiting and check in on football recruiting when we have you on next week, Adam.
Sounds good. Thank you.
BuffStampede.com. They are the place to go. This is recruiting season. Check them out. And that's Rockin Company's Rockin CU. Brought to you by the folks making Colorado beautiful with natural stone construction. Rockin Company, rockinco.com, and Zadie's Deli, where they cater and they deliver. Free parking front and back, 121 Adams Street, Zadie's Deli.